pilot stop. You're right in the right spot. All signals above the shoulders are for the pilot. All signals below the shoulders, because everything's done by hand motions. You're not on the radio. You're certainly not yelling over the jet blast. So it's all hand motions, right? Anything above the shoulder is for the pilot. Anything below the shoulders is for the crew, right? So he's telling the pilot you're in the right spot. This young gentleman here, right? He's coming out with a weight board. While you're in the ready room, you're going to figure out what your aircraft is going to weigh, fully loaded with gas and the armament and your weight. And you're going to write that on the side of the plane in grease pencil. And as he's taxiing down to get ready in position, he's going to have that on the weight board here, and he's going to show it to the pilot. Now, if he's been waiting a while to get onto the catapult, he may have burned a lot of fuel off. So you show him this weight, and the pilot goes, "No, I need less weight." Once he's in agreement, he shows it to the pilot. The pilot gives him a thumbs up. Yeah, that's right. That's the right weight. He will then show it. Over there are 2 blue trash cans, and if you look in the deck there, you'll see a red and yellow rectangle. There's a young gentleman sitting there, center deck operator, who's monitoring that. He wants to make sure that that weight is right for the catapult. The catapult has to be set to the right weight. All right, so. Remember those hand motions? He's not only talking to the pilot, because this is the guy the pilot's looking at, because he's monitoring everything that's happening around him. He's also telling this guy something. This guy's saying, okay, take up tension. Because when they say take up tension, you want to make sure that shuttle, when it catches that T-bar on the launch bar there, that it's a super tight fit. Because if there's any room, it'll rip those teeth right out. Because remember, that catapult's going to fire tremendously strong. So you want to make sure that it's a completely tight fit before and take up tension. So that's what he's telling them to do. So he's talking to the pilot and his man there. Pilot can't see him. This is the guy he watches. Now this is the normal operating position for the shooter. What you see there is the classic launch position, right? But he doesn't operate like that the whole time. He's standing up and he's looking around at all his people. He's looking at this guy over here. He's checked his charts and made sure that he's checked the gauges. Now he might have a second person sitting there in the hole with him, studying with him. Because in the Navy we do that a lot. We train people to take over our jobs. Anyway, he's sitting there. By the way, he's the only one allowed to sit on the flight deck during the flight ops. Because that's his station, and it's allowed. Everybody else is on their feet. He's checking his people. Thumbs up, everything's good to go. Checking his people. Thumbs up, everything's good to go, it's hooked up. He's looking at all his different people around, and they're all giving him a thumbs up, right? That's when he looks at the pilot, and the pilot's ready because he's checked his controls. And the pilot looks at him, gives him a salute, he salutes back, then he goes to that classic launch position. But he doesn't launch the aircraft. He gives the command to, but this is the guy that does it. Now if you look down the edge of the flight deck there, you see him sitting down there with his hands in the air? You know how he does that? I didn't do it. His hands are in the air in this position while they're doing prep, right? So he's showing them, I'm nowhere near that switch, because it takes 2 hands to fire that switch. So as long as he's got 2 hands in the air, he's nowhere near that catapult control. Because the last thing you want to do is misfire the catapult. So he's standing there like that. When everything's ready, all the signs are up, everything's good to go, he'll step back and clench his fists, meaning I'm ready to launch. That's when the shooter does this. He reaches down, touches the deck. Why does he do that? The last thing you want to do is launch when you're doing this.
Oh, feeling the
When you're starting on the upswing. So he touches the deck when he feels the upsurge, bends down, touches it, and then there's a 4 count. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, so that they check all the safety measures, make sure everything is diadobe. They look down the deck, and at the very end of the deck, there's a green light or a red light. It better be green, or he's not going to launch. When he sees that green light, last thing he does is reach down, hits that switch, and away you go. Okay.
Oh, wow.
It is a very complex operation. I used to love to sit up on the island and watch flight ops because it was like a ballet, all done with hand gestures, and it was repeated every 45 seconds, if you can imagine. Amazing thing to watch. Here he is, the classic position. He's touched the deck, he's getting ready. Now you can see the whole back's gone, so he's actually moving. At this point in time, he's being pulled down the catapult. It's that split second before he takes off. The whole back, the dog bone is broken, the whole back is falling down, and he's under the cat now. Remember that guy sitting down there monitoring everything? There he is.
There's that blast.
Say again, sir?
There's a blast thing behind him.
Oh, jet blast deflector, yeah. You can see it in that position because he's getting ready to take off and they want to deflect a jet blast so it doesn't get the people behind him. Okay, here he is going off the end of the, and as the fella that worked on the flight deck for 23 years used to say, we'll guarantee the first 264 feet, after that you're on your own. So here he is. Remember that green light? That's what he's checking. Okay. One other thing I want to mention. When you guys walked up forward there, you saw what looked like a little sloping ramp at the front of the carrier. Those are called horns. Midway has them. You look across the way at the Roosevelt there, or the Lincoln, they do not have horns because they don't use this old style of launch anymore. This is a bridle system. And if you look at the Crusader over there, underneath the wings are two huge iron hooks. They would hook the bridle in the hooks like this and then put that over the shuttle. And that's what they would pull that plane down the deck with. The problem with that, it was very labor intensive. You need a lot more people doing it. And it was a little more dangerous. Because in the early days when they came up with this system, before they put the bridles in, that bridle, when it got to the end of the deck, right, it stops because the shuttle stops. That bridle could snap up and sometimes would hit the plane and disable it. So they added the horns to take that angle away so that even if it came up, it wouldn't catch the aircraft. But they came up with a much better launch system using the launch bar. And this is what they use now. That's why the modern carriers do not have that. Okay, are there any questions? You're going to be tested on this later, I'm telling you. Thanks so much for coming aboard, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you.